so all of you who are new to this, I wanted to take a second to go over how these black templates are so that if you decide you want to make one, it's a little bit easier. Now, if you love puzzles, these are so great. So you can see that this is how this is going to turn out when it's done. All your pieces together. So when you print out your template on the first page, it's about a 10 by 10 square once it's all said and done. But this is something that you definitely need to have straight lines and be able to sew a straight line. So let's open it up and see what else we can expect when we print this off. So right into the first page, we have a little chart up top here, if you can see. This has all of our labeled pieces and how it's going to look. And then the next few pages are all of our little pieces. So some bigger than others. And each one is labeled with either a number or a piece of the alphabet. And you'll notice that there are 2 lines around each of the pieces. So this outer edge here is what you're going to be cutting, the lighter one, and that is your seam allowance. So that makes it so everything's going to line up perfectly if you have your seam allowance correctly and you're sewing your straight lines. So the inside is the actual size of the fabric when you're done sewing is what that darker piece is. So what I usually do is I cut out my little template. So there's a smaller one and there's a bigger one in the back. So if you kind of think it's the second to last page, you see that there's a bigger template, so it's a little bit easier for you to be able to see. So save this with your little one and kind of set them aside. And what you want to do next is kind of look at this piece here. This piece here is going to show you how each of these little pieces are going to be put together to make squares or rectangles. And once you have those squares and rectangles of pieces together, you can sew it together into one big 10 by 10 square. So what I do first is go through my large template, and I'm going to start color coding this, and I'll show you how. So going through and looking, I have my colored template to show me which pieces and then my big number template. So I'm going to find the yellow pieces and I'm just going to mark on here. Well, just kind of circle it, which ones are going to be yellow. And there's only 3 yellow pieces. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to mark my wing pieces just by circling the little pieces that are going to be gray. So I know when I'm looking for those, which ones are which. And then I'm going to do my black pieces. Just a couple more of those. And now I know that the rest of them, the legs. The rest of these are going to be white. Now going back to our color coded kind of sections, you can section it off different if you want to. This was just the way that I did it to kind of break it down for the beginners. So what I'm going to do is look for these pieces. I'm starting with this section right here. So I'm going to look for these pieces in my puzzle and I'm going to just pin them on top of the fabric. So I have 3 white and 1 black that I'm going to be looking for. So I'll get my white fabric and my black ready and I'll cut out those pieces and kind of start sectioning them together, and I'll work my way across to this black next, pulling out each piece, and then also in this big piece here, and cutting along each piece until I form my full little hornet there. So after you've cut out your piece around the lighter border, you're going to want to take some pins and you're just going to pin it onto your fabric like so, and then you'll get your fabric scissors and carefully cut around. And again, this is something where it does matter if you're off by a bit. So you want to make sure that that piece, even though you've pinned it, kind of tug on it a little bit so it's not bunching up. And you want it to be the perfect size so that when you're sewing it, everything lines up. So we have that one, and we also need one in the black. Something to point out on this Hornet one is that I'm doing K, and there's actually, I believe, 3 Ks. 2 of them are black, and one of them is this yellow. So I'm gonna need this piece to do 2 of my black on this one. So if you can't find it, if it's the exact same size, it might be a piece that's being duplicated. So just keep that in mind. You're not missing something. It's just the way the pattern's set up. So, and this is just a rectangle. So this is an easy one that I'm starting with just to show for the video. So I laid this, I folded it over, and I'm going to cut 2 of these at a time for the black. So now I just want to show you how this lines up. Because these are just rectangles, all you have to do is fold over the front side to the front side. And I have this double layered, so let me get rid of one of these black pieces. Lay the front side on top of the front side, and you're going to sew along your 1/4 inch seam. And when you open it up, it should match this exact box. But don't forget, you have a 1/4 inch seam on each side. So after you get sewing more pieces, it will keep shrinking to the size that it needs to be. But you'll have it lined up like that. And your iron will be your best friend for a project like this to make sure your seams are ironed flat and everything is laying straight. So don't be afraid to use your iron after you get a rectangle or a section sewn. So that's my other tip for you for this project. After you work your way through each of these little pieces, it'll start coming together, of course, as it goes, like every project you do. You can kind of mark off your sections as you go. And when you're done, if you add a border around it, if you want to make it larger, you can to turn it into anything. As you can see, I did this really cool pillow, which I love. So hopefully you find a design that you love and you share it with us on our group. There are other templates like this Hornet that are also available and more that will become available. So if you enjoy doing this and watching these sewing projects come together, please check back for more when you're ready for the next one.